So how do we help others overcome brokenness or depression, and what are some scriptures that would speak to that? I think the scriptures that would speak to it the most don't speak to it directly. And I would say that we help others overcome their depression by carrying them as best we can. So scriptures like love others the way you love yourself, encourage one another daily, that somehow depression is a lack. It's a darkness in the heart, not an evilness. It's darkness and difficulty and struggle and trial within our soul, within our heart. And we need to not always clinically try and go in there and say, here's, if you would change these things, or if you would cut away these things, then it would fix. I think sometimes the best way is to say, in your brokenness, we're going to love you as much as we love ourselves. So I'm going to care about your brokenness as much as I care about my own challenges. I'm going to encourage the good in you and hope that, like a weed, will grow and begin to crowd out maybe some of the self-doubt in you or the depression in you. So I think we have to learn that love, in the end, is the greatest thing, right? And then I think patience. True love is patient. I think love with a lowercase l tries to fix and tries to fix it fast, right? So I think love with a capital L understands that the person matters more than the brokenness in the person. And so there's a willingness to wait and to be patient over the long haul that gets communicated to the person, and it dignifies them. And they understand that you're going to continue to be there, and they can rest in that love. So I think capital L love that's not always trying to fix the depression or talk about the depression, but accepts the depression, I think is the next thing. And again, that's the kind of love that God had for us, where he said, you guys aren't fixing yourself. I looked for justice and there was none to be found. I looked for somebody that was really going to intervene, but there was nobody. And I was appalled that there was nobody. So my own arm worked salvation. So God took it upon himself to carry us in the fullness of our brokenness. And if we can have that kind of incarnational love, again, it's a carrying kind of thing. And I think that's the foundation for dealing with the brokenness in others the best, is that we first have to come up underneath, not kind of go in with the scalpel and try and fix. And then I just really believe the Psalms, all of them. The beauty about the Psalms is if you read them enough, everyone finds a favorite. And it's usually a different favorite from the people that you know. Everyone finds a favorite psalm. That's because the language of the Psalms is so uniquely couched in first-person language. I mean, it's first-person language. It's not third-person kind of didactic information. It's the heart cry of a person, and we're able to find that it articulates parts of the Psalms. They articulate our inutterable cry, or our human experience that we're looking for language for. And not only do we find that it articulates it, but that's scripture. Like, it's in the Bible, that language that matches my heart cry, right? So when we read enough of the Psalms, we begin to find that we have a favorite. And in finding that, and in finding that it's in scripture, there's a certain beauty that happens that says, scripture can hold my brokenness. Scripture can hold my brokenness. Not only does it speak to it, but it doesn't necessarily try to fix it. It holds my brokenness. It allows for my brokenness. It dignifies my voice by putting it in the voice of the psalmist. And so I can sit there in sackcloth and ashes, and that's okay. And there's something, again, so healing about that. And then the beauty of those Psalms is there is a resolution without there being a resolution. They always point back to God. That's what I mean by resolution. So your brokenness, your depression, always is located somewhere with regard to God and God's faithfulness, and that his love endures forever, and that his love is unfailing. So they resolve with regard to God, but they don't ultimately resolve in the fact that it doesn't always try and fix you in that moment. So again, there's something so beautiful in the Psalms for the brokenhearted. And so I think we need to help people find that and be able to sit there. So I think the Psalms are there, and then I think Jesus in the Beatitudes and places like that is talking to people that aren't your average American evangelical and with kind of little problems here and there. He's talking to people that are under the thumb of an empire, that are out in the countryside, that are the socioeconomic status that they're bringing to things is really unique. And he's saying in that you can find God and God will bless you and you can be filled. And he doesn't wave away the problem. He speaks into the problem and into the brokenness and offers hope. And so I think there's a lot of passages like that Jesus speaks to, and that somebody who's brokenhearted or depressed can find help and healing in. And then lastly, I would say, we don't ever talk about this, but just the tenor of some of Paul's letters to, say, Timothy. It's dark. When Paul's at the end and he's writing, he's sad and he's lonely. And the reason we don't talk about it is we don't want that to be on Sunday mornings when we're talking to the church, what we're offering them as a promise. Like, hey, if you live like Paul, really faithfully, at the end of the day, you can be sitting in a jail cell really alone, having been rejected by a lot of friends and depressed. So we don't talk about that aspect of it, but it's there. You can see it in his language. And so I think, again, helping people realize that how pretty everything looks on TV or on the magazine covers in the checkout line is a false, superficial reality that doesn't really match the true human condition, which is a lot messier. We Photoshop women. I mean, there's a lot going on about that these days, about how we take the prettiest of all women and then we still Photoshop them, for magazine covers. And I think that's a great picture or analogy for what we tend to do in modern society and how we paint life. We do it very idealistically. And so I think if we can get out of that and offer the brokenhearted or the depressed that, no, that's just not true. Here's truth. Here's Jesus in the garden crying out to God, asking God to take away this cup or this burden, and his friends are sleeping on him. And here's Paul alone, and here's the psalmist sitting in this spot on a lonely mountain, and that you are not, there's not something wrong with you. You're struggling. It's difficult, and that's human, and it's earthy, and that can harmonize with Scripture, and you can find hope there, or healing there, or a voice there that matches your voice. So I think we just need to usher people into the presence of God in that kind of place. And it's there. It's all throughout Scripture. Thank you.